All right, one big team. So excited to be speaking with you today. I wanted to do a solo episode, but I got a friend helping me, my pod caddy, one of the owners here at T-Pow Studios, Troy Taggart, good friend of mine. So he might be chiming in with some questions as we talk. And I'm going to dive into probably my favorite thing to talk about, which is gratitude. And why do I want to talk about gratitude with you all? One, it aligns with my vision of helping as many people as I can. Two, it's simply been probably one of the biggest transformational tools that I've used in my life. And I've really just learned some great things about it, strategies to implement it. And it's just brought me a lot of joy, and it's definitely helped me grow into the person that I want to be. So I'm really grateful for gratitude, the practice, getting to talk about it and share some things with you all. Now, I'm not going to talk about the science of it, even though there's plenty of great science there. I'm going to talk about my journey with it and my story, and how, it's impacted me, and hopefully you can pull some similarities into your own life and start applying these. Now, with the goal, my goal, let's say 100 people watch this. Actually, let's have a good peer. Let's say 1 million people watch this. My goal is not for one person to start a gratitude practice, an intentional gratitude practice. My goal is for 1 million people. If 1 million people watch this video or listen to it, my goal is for 1 million people to start a gratitude practice and be intentional with that. That's how powerful it is, and that's how much it means to me. So we're going big. All right. I'm going to start off with my story and how I got introduced into intentional gratitude practice. Now, this is not to say that my parents didn't help me be thankful for the things in my life, because they lived that way, and I definitely was impacted by their behavior and what they modeled for me. But the first time I was introduced to intentional gratitude practice, and I shared this story on other podcasts, but it's important to me to highlight it. I was in college, I was in study hall, I was stressed. Realizing now, understanding stress, I was focused on the things that I could not control. And I 100% was not thinking about the things I could control and all of the great things in my life. I was probably overwhelmed by school because I wasn't focusing on breaking up my schedule or handling it in an appropriate way. I wasn't using a good strategy. But be it, I was on Twitter, I was scrolling through. And thankfully, years before, I unfollowed all the negative people on Twitter that I was following, and I started following all of these incredible leaders and spiritual practitioners. And I came across a tweet, and it was write down 100 things you're grateful for and shift your perspective. And I understood perspective, and the way that we view things tends to be the way that we experience things. So I said, okay, that makes sense, and it's a lot better than doing schoolwork right now. So I take out a piece of paper and I start writing. And the first 5 or 6 were pretty standard and came to me right away. And now I look back on it, and I wasn't actually feeling gratitude. I was just thinking, what were the right answers? What are the things I'm grateful for? Okay, and it was my family. It was a shelter over my head. It was the opportunity to play lacrosse in college, my health. And then I went blank. And I remember feeling a bit disappointed that I didn't have the ability to truly be thankful in that moment. And I realized, I was like, wow, you've been living in a way where you've been unconscious of all of the great things that surround you. And your current status of being super stressed out is reflective of your perspective over the past months. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and then I remember clearly it was socks, right? The thought of socks came to me, and I was like, yeah, man, I got socks on and my feet are dry, and man, I got all types of socks. I got the Nike mid-calves that I wear at practice. I got the ankles when I wear my workout shoes. I got business socks. I got a whole drawer of socks. And it was that experience. And then I started realizing, man, I got a ton of different materials that serve a purpose in my life and help me go through my day. And it was like my smoothie maker, right? My NutriBullet. I had smoothies twice a day at that point. I was obsessed. I was like, wow, that's giving me the ability to quickly digest all these nutrients. Oh my gosh, it was overwhelming. And I start going down the list. And you can imagine in that moment of shocking awareness of all of the great things that were in my life. And I start making my list. And there was moments where I paused, but I committed to it. It took me probably near, 45 minutes, an hour to really get finished with that list. Now, that was the first thing I did. There was a ripple effect. I felt better. I was in a different energetic state. My body was different. My body language, my interactions with other people, probably for 48 hours was shifted. Okay. Of course, like anything that isn't practiced consistently, right, we're not going to reap the benefits. And I realize that now with clarity, which is why another reason I'm doing this episode. So I go on my life. I have ripple effect thoughts of, be grateful for this. You're using your smoothie. Oh, this is a great machine. This is great. And when we're focused on the things that are blessing us, right, we're not focusing on the things that are stressing us. And there was a nice period of time where I was grateful. But of course, it wore off. The next time, years later, and I didn't go years without practicing gratitude. There was things I was thankful for, but it wasn't in my language. I was not the person I am now in college. I was not saying I'm so grateful for this and I'm so grateful for that and experiencing this. I had more stress in college than I do now because I understand this practice in my mind a lot better. So it's years later, and the next intentional gratitude practice, I saw the TED Talk about positive psychology and how if you write down 3 things you're grateful for each night for 21 nights in a row, you're going to shift the way that your brain operates, right? And you're going to be more optimistic and you'll be happier. And I said, well, that makes sense. I would love to be happier. And like, who doesn't want to be happier? It's just incredible. So I start the practice. Again, I'm writing it down. Was I feeling it right away? Probably not, because I don't think I understood that it's supposed to be an emotion. You're supposed to shift your state of being. It's not just writing things down. But there's a little bit of a shift. There's intention behind starting a habit and a routine. I remember night 3 or 4, something right around there. I get in bed, I turn the lights off. I realize I didn't do it. And I go, you know what? You want to be happier. You committed to it. Get back up. Turn the lights on. Get the journal out. I write down, 3 things. But really, I started writing down more, 5 things. And then eventually I started writing down 10 things because my thought was, well, if I'm using the science of neuroplasticity and I'm changing the way that my brain operates, then I'm just going to double down. So there was nights where I didn't want to do it. And there's nights where I went and got in bed, turned the lights off, and I got back out. And I stuck with it. And it was probably 2 weeks in that I was noticing a difference. And here's an example. I am in traffic during the day. And this is my former self. And I'm a little bit stressed. I'm running late. And I'm thinking about how it's going to impact the rest of my day. And I'm focusing on all the things out of my control. But I had a good podcast going on. So I was able to catch a few more minutes of the podcast. So later that night, I take out my gratitude journal and I go, all right, what was I grateful for today? And it hits me and I go, you can express gratitude for that extra 10 minutes in traffic because you got extra 10 minutes of that podcast. And in that extra 10 minutes, you learned a great little tip about better understanding communication patterns and it made you a better coach or whatever it was. And I said, okay, all right, I like that. So you can be grateful for things that are even a little bit challenging and it helps shift your perspective. And this is when I really first started to understand that gratitude can be a transformer. It can be a transformer of memories and in the present moment. So what did that look like down the road? Well, it looks like now, years later, I can't remember the last time that traffic got me stressed because I have wired it into my head that traffic is an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the car where I'm driving slowly and I don't have to worry about cars flying by me. And I get to listen to a podcast or call a friend or work on my breath work practice. So there's many great things that traffic will allow us to do. It allowed me to pause. All right. And this is essentially getting into a strategy that I talked about with Scott Ratliff on one of my podcasts, which is positivity triggers, right? And giving meaning to all these things in our life. What's your meaning behind a red light? Because I think for most people, it's probably, I didn't catch the green light. And it's not, I'm really thankful that I'm safe right now. Or I'm really grateful that I have this great car getting me to where I'm going. or let me come back to my breath, or take a moment just to reflect. Okay, so there's a lot of great things that we can use to transform. And I think about the red light and traffic as one of them for me. So other ways that my practice has evolved. One, with the nightly journal. Okay, this is the journal. I'm more than 2.5 years in. I've missed some nights here and there. I don't bring it with me everywhere. But for most parts, if I'm traveling for more than one night, it'll be with me. At first, it's intentional, and then it becomes subconscious. What do I mean by that? I mean that when I walk in my room at night and I lay down in my bed, one, I was intentional about putting it on my nightstand, right? So it makes it easier for me to do. But now when I get in bed, I literally reach over and grab it without thinking about it. I grab the pen that I keep in there and I start writing, and I take a breath and I think about, okay, let me channel this feeling of gratitude, which is really a feeling of fullness and contentment and presence. And it is the absence of stress and anxiety. And I center myself there, and then I start to reflect on my day. And there can be challenging things that I'm grateful for, which help me shift my perspective and help me work through them more effectively. And there could be amazing moments of connection with other people. And, you know, as an example, right, I love my conversations with people. I get so much out of my support from people. My friend Troy sitting right here, we had a great conversation before this started. It allows me to better understand all the things that I love through conversation, right? I'm improving as a speaker through conversation. I'm helping share things, and I'm learning things from somebody else and their unique perspective. A conversation is an amazing thing that we can be grateful for, okay? The meals that you've eaten, I mean, literally everything, okay? This is my practice. Again, it's my story, and I hope you can find some threads that you can pull on, all right? And if you haven't felt it yet, this has transformed my day-to-day life. I am 2.5 years of intentional daily gratitude practice, and I'm just doubling down and tripling down. I've now taken it into a morning scribe, okay? And this is not to be robotic and necessarily a machine of routine, but our brain does love consistency, and we tend to thrive when we're consistent with things. So in some sense, like, yeah, why don't you be routine-based when it comes to gratitude and being happy? So now what I like to do in the morning, I like to write down, you know, what I'm grateful for and what I anticipate to be grateful for. Okay, so I'm grateful that I get to work with so many great athletes today and help them transform themselves so they can be their best coach. That's what I do in my profession. That's what it's my purpose right now. So if I express gratitude for it, I tend to do a better job at that. And then when I'm there with my players, I tend to be feeling that I tried to generate in the morning with my scribe. You know, I'm going to be grateful for any challenges that come up because there are opportunities for me to be more resilient and to come back to my breath and be more present, right? So it can really be anything there. But again, you get better at tapping into the feeling of gratitude, okay? Now, if you listen to my podcast with Stu Singer, well-known sports and performance psychologist, right? He talks about gratitude and the science of the brain a little bit, right? There's different parts of the brain when we're feeling anxious and when we're feeling gratitude, right? When we're feeling blessed or stressed. And you can focus on that, right? You can't experience stress and anxiety when you are in a state of gratitude, okay? So there's a difference between being stressed and then going, well, I guess I'm grateful for that, and I guess this, and not putting your body and your feelings into it. But when you commit to it and you make it a skill, you improve at it, it gets easier to tap into. I've seen it for myself, okay? And I hope that you can feel that. Like in the beginning, it was intentional. Now it's all very subconscious, but there's an intentional side to the practice. I think about gratitude as a time traveler. Gratitude is a time traveler. We all have painful memories or memories that will cause us to have self-limiting beliefs or be anxious about certain things. And one of those for me was my relationship with my older brother, which thankfully now, and partially due to this gratitude practice, is healed and we have a great relationship. But I had anger, I held anger and resentment towards my brother for the way that he behaved, and it affected me and my family growing up. And it was years after those feelings that they were still present in my mind. Okay, and I could feel them come up. so that I treated him differently than I should have. And I was able to, through this practice, to go back to those memories. And some of them specific, but really just as a whole. Like anyone can do this and go, you know, I'm grateful for the experience of having my older brother as my brother. And then sitting there with that and going, okay, I'm grateful for those memories. And then it starts to come through. Wow, I'm grateful for those memories because it has made me the patient and kind person that I am today. I value kindness to others because I don't know what other people are going through in their home, in their life away from sport. I am grateful for those experiences because they've made me a more empathetic person so I can better connect with the players that I want to help serve and the community that I want to serve. Okay, now during that practice, and I've had to do it multiple times, my relationship has been healed and completely improved, and I'm not in pain from those memories anymore. Okay, so I've used gratitude as a time traveler. I've also, to go back in the past, and I've also used gratitude as a time traveler for the future. And this is where it gets fun. Okay, I have many, many times, and I do it daily, and it's what I do in the morning. I write down what I am grateful for that has not happened yet, but is going to happen. And I've done this with my coaching career. I've done this with my personal mindset in life and my routines. I've done this with my finances, and it has worked for me. Okay, I have improved immensely as a coach and as a speaker. I have been able to more quickly access my future self because when I sit down and express gratitude for it, it makes it so much more real in my brain. And the brain doesn't know the difference between the experience lived and the experience imagined if you do it well enough. So I've tapped into me holding trophies over my head, and it's happened. I have other gratitude projections that have not happened yet, but I know that they will. And it's a technique that a lot of people use, reverse engineering. And that technique is simply put yourself in your future state. Put yourself in the accomplishment, achieving the award. Okay, now what did you have to do to become that person that achieved that award, to get that job, to get the scholarship, to get the starting spot? And you can start to fill in the pieces. And then expressing gratitude for that is just another exercise to help develop that clarity. So that has been an impactful thing for me as well. And when you create your self-image and you choose to come from that state, people feel it. And it does make a big difference. So I recommend using gratitude as a time traveler, right? Whether it's something in the past that you realize maybe you should forgive somebody and express gratitude for because it's made you a better person, or it's helping you become the person you want to be, right? Express gratitude for those things that have yet to come, and they will come sooner, I believe. I think about some strategies here, okay? So one of them, I was doing this, and I'm doing it now so much more, and I got from Jon Gordon. And Jon Gordon is a, many times over best-selling author. He is The Energy Bus. He wrote The Energy Bus. It's an incredible book. All of his books are absolutely impactful and empowering. He is like the king of positivity. All right. He's incredible. You can check out his podcast, Positive You. Jon Gordon, as in you, the letter, Positive University, Jon Gordon. And he says you can wake up blessed or you can wake up stressed. So when you wake up and your feet hit the ground, be intentional. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being alive. And one of my things now is I laugh about it, and it causes me to laugh. When I walk around my apartment now, I go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, as my feet hit the ground. It's goofy. No one's there. It's just me. I tend to laugh, and I feel better. I'm changing the state of being that I'm in because my future self is joyful, happy, smiling, having an impact. So I want to create the energy that that person's going to live in. And right now I have to be intentional about it so that I can then just make it my normal state of being. So I wake up and I start thinking about all my blessings and I start counting them, right? And this makes me think of John Wooden's 7-point creed that his father gave to him, right? And the 7th one is pray for guidance, count and give thanks for your blessings each day, right? So I try to count my blessings throughout the day. And if you are walking around your room or your school or your office and you're considering that each interaction has its own unique blessing into your life, you're going to feel blessed, right? But if you're walking around and you're basically looking at everything as a point of stress and division in your mind and your experience, you're going to experience stress. Okay, if you're focusing on things you can't control, you're going to feel out of control. If you come back to what you can control and can appreciate, you're going to feel that. So I think about the strategy of gratitude walks, which is what John Gordon's big on. And he said this is really what changed his life. And if you read The Energy Bus, it's a story of his life. He was working. He fell into maybe a depressed state, a state of being overly stressed and consumed with things that he could not control, and comparison, right? Stealing his own joy by comparing himself with others. So he started the practice of gratitude walks, where he'd walk each morning and just simply think about all the things he's grateful for. It's a walking gratitude journal. It's an amazing practice. And he does it every day now. He does it on the beach with his wife, and he swears by it. Well, you know what? He swears by it. He seems happy. I'm going to try it. I'm willing to try it. So I've been doing the gratitude walks. Now I'm trying to integrate it into when I walk in general. And this is kind of, walking meditation this has been around for thousands of years, right? Being present. And sometimes instead of just being present with observing our thoughts, being present with intentional thoughts of gratitude is a really good strategy. So I'm walking. I got a soft smile on my face because that's what a person who's grateful tends to look like. And I'm just counting the blessings, the shoes on my feet, the socks beneath those shoes, in between the shoes, however you think about that, the clothes I'm wearing, the comfort that I feel, my health, the ability to breathe fully and clearly, my car, every single thing that I can touch, all right? Now, there are times where my mind will wander, right? And this is where having a consistent mindfulness practice helps. And I get focused on things I can't control. But then I come back to the things that I'm in my car. I'm going to call somebody. I can do a podcast. There's so many things. So again, intentional, and then it becomes a full-time gig, right? And it becomes ingrained into your life. Yeah, those are a ton of thoughts. Troy, what do you got? What are some of your thoughts? You've been taking notes. I think that's pretty much everything I have written down right here.
I'm really interested in this gratitude as a time traveler.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned a brother. I have an older brother.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together. We had our fair share of battles.
Mm-hmm.
But I have never really thought about how grateful I'm going to be for him in 5 and 10 years.
Mm.
And what does that look like? Having the ability to envision it first,
Mm-hmm.
to make that more of a reality now in my head.
Yeah.
So can you? I'm really interested in this time travel, especially future. Like, I think it's always easy for us to go to backwards, right?
Yeah.
And look at things from a backwards perspective.
Totally.
So I think it's really difficult for people to look to the future.
I completely agree. And the one thing that popped up for me right away is how often, I know you've coached, how often have you heard the conversation of when you're working with a young person and they are frustrated with their parents because their parents are making them go to bed early, or they're making them do their schoolwork, or to have a tutor, or these things that the person doesn't want to do in the moment. And you go, you're going to be so thankful down the road that they signed you up for cotillion class, or that they signed you up for the math tutor so you could graduate high school, right? And people said that to me, and okay, whatever, got it, right? And I've probably said that to players. But if you can really try to experience the gratitude and imagine you, if you didn't have this math tutor and you flunk a bunch of these courses, how much more stress that's going to bring. But what if you make math one of your strengths? And now it doesn't cause any stress in your life because you are more skilled and you have a better strategy. Can you put yourself in what that would feel like to not have to worry about math and to be good at that skill? And I use math because when my mom, she listens to this, I fought her on that. I hated math, and I had to do the tutor so that I freaking went to college and graduated high school. Shout out my tutor. I forget your name, but you were a good man. So I think that's one thing that pops up is, can you express gratitude? Can you think about how grateful you're going to be in 5 years from now when you're playing at your dream school? And again, I'm around players all the time, so I'm using that example. Can you express some gratitude for what's it going to feel like when you make it to that dream school and you have great grades? Isn't that what you want? Isn't that part of your vision? And For anyone who's trying to get a promotion, okay, can you express gratitude for the struggles right now? They're going to be your triumphs later, and tap into that ability so that you can just be more present now. And I think a lot of it, if you have a clear vision for yourself, then painting the picture is a lot easier. But here's the simple one for me. This is the most important one. The other stuff is honestly wish-wash compared to this. How do I want to be in the future? Well, you know what? I used to say I want to be the Hall of Fame coach. Well, I don't want to be the Hall of Fame coach and have a frown on my face. I don't want to be the Hall of Fame coach that has players resenting him for the way that he treats them. I don't want to be the Hall of Fame coach that disregards, all the grateful things in my life. How do I want to see myself in 20 years from now? Man, I am just smiling from ear to ear. I'm just charged with gratitude. I can't pick up a glass of freaking coffee without being like, this thing is the best. Troy, you got to try my coffee. It's so good. I don't want any moment to slip by in my future state where I'm not joyful. So my future self's joyful. He's free in spirit and mind. He's spreading joy. And that's where I think if you could channel that first, right? And then it's like, all right, and then what's my job? What's my person? What am I doing? Oh, okay, I'm still a coach and I'm loving it. Maybe I'm a speaker or something, right? But I think start with how do you actually want to feel tomorrow and make it a clear picture. I think that's probably the easiest way to use it as a time traveler to the future.
Makes sense. I think going to bed saying, I'm going to have a great day tomorrow is a simple thing.
Powerful.
It's just simple, right?
Totally.
I can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a great day.
And yes, and we're tapping it in gratitude and optimism in regards to the future. I mean, that kind of changes into optimism, but they're so in sync with each other. And this is, again, building the mental skills and the emotions. The feelings is what you want to experience. The skills is the perspective and then the exercise and the intention about getting you to that experience. So if you're feeling stressed, and you're having a lack of gratitude, right? And you realize you have the awareness, why am I stressed? I'm focusing on 5 things completely out of my control right now. Oh, yeah, I remember hearing if I focus on things that are out of my control, I will feel out of control. Let me come back to what I can control. I can control being present right now. Let me take my breath one by one. I can control expressing gratitude for catching myself being stressed, right? Like you create these loops and skills and drills, and then you get to the emotion and the experience, which is the sweet spot, right? Absolutely.
So one other thought here is we tend to attach an emotion to something that has happened, either in the present or the past.
Yes.
Or in the past and we just haven't let it go.
Yes.
You were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
How often do we fool ourselves that incident was actually bad when it actually was something good? Just like what you said, I'm in 10 minutes worth of traffic and maybe that just saved my life. Maybe that, because we don't know.
Yep.
Right? But how then do you make that actually 5 years from now, it could have been the greatest thing that could have happened, that you lost that championship because it made you more motivated.
Totally.
Some people win a championship and they can't get the motivation back to go after number 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. I think this is a skill, it's a habit, and you should practice it daily in the moments that are low stress and low risk. So at the end of the night when you're about to go to bed, right, there's a limit on things that can distract you. That's a great time to start developing this skill, right, and creating the neural pathways in your brain. The morning's a great time, right when you wake up, be intentional about it, so that when you are in the high risk environment, the high stress environment, the emotionally charged experience, you have the wisdom to go, wait a minute, I can be grateful for this. I don't have to let this experience consume me and make me feel the way that I used to feel by it before I knew better. I can learn from this better if I tap into gratitude, which is going to tap into a higher state of consciousness. And that's really, so like we lost a championship this year and that sucks, but I was able to much more quickly just tap into, I said it to the kids after the game. We all coaches all said our piece and I was like, guys, I know this sucks and it hurts more for you right now than it does for me. 1, because they're the player. 2, because I've done this work. I go, but I'm just so grateful that our relationships aren't ending, right? This season has ended and we're not holding a trophy, but our relationships are forever. Like, I'm so grateful. And that's where I'm consumed by right now. And I'm here for you. Let me know what you need. Let's keep getting better.
Well, relationships are they feed me personally. I mean, it feeds me to have relationships.
Sure.
I want to get back just real quick because when you're talking about strategy at the end of the day and before you go to bed to write down what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
You know, your brain's been working all day, right? Mm-hmm. And then you just say, well, I'm going to end my day on these things. And when you wake up in the morning, it's like fresh powder. Right? You wrecked the mountain the whole day.
Yeah.
Just ripping it up.
Right? Yeah.
Good and bad, whatever. But the next day, is your brain like fresh powder on a mountain at that point? And more so in the morning to allow you then to redigest what happened the next day or move forward with a better idea for that day.
I think yes, especially when you visualize your future self waking up the next morning and you say, all right, I'm going to be intentional about the first moments when I wake up. And the first few thoughts are going to be gratitude. When my feet hit the ground, gratitude. Thank you. This is going to be epic. I'm going to live my vision today. I feel like my future self. So yes, but there's also the mind will still try to survival mind, right? It'll look at all those things that are potential threats and potential stressors. And then that's where, having the routines really help. So one thing, my phone's not in my room anymore when I sleep. Okay, I have the chargers right outside so I can still hear the alarm. Probably should just get a different alarm, whatever. And I don't pick that up for a little bit. And I wake up and I first just try to get gratitude in my body and feel the experience. So I want to say yes, like you have that ability to visualize yourself waking up in the morning and you're creating the neural pathways where it's more likely to happen. And I have had that, and I've woken up, and like today I woke up and before I swung my feet off and before they hit the ground and right as I hit it was like, touchdown, thank you, let's go. I walked around my apartment and I set the temperature to 65 degrees, trying something different, and I loved it. But I was walking around, I was cold, and I go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it made me laugh and it made me smile. So I did not have any thoughts of anxiety in the first 20, 30 minutes. And anxiety, I mean all of the rush of things that we have to potentially do, okay? Which you can put systems in place so that you can just go control what I can control, get that done. So I think moving the phone out's helped because I can almost guarantee them when I used to look at my phone early on when I would wake up, comparison of others would slip in, and comparison's the thief of joy. Envy. And he who envies others will never obtain a peace of mind. So yeah, like if I got on social media early on, that would jack me up a little bit. So I do think with that practice, you can absolutely start your day off with a little fresh powder, which I like how you explain that. Yeah. But I mean, the best thing you can do, and I asked James Brady, he's a guru to me. He was the quarterback coach. He is a quarterback coach. He's so much more from Long Island. He's episode, I don't know, look it up on YouTube or Spotify. James Brady, he's incredible. And I asked him, and I didn't have the question written down. I go, how quick are you to start being intentional with your thoughts in the morning? And he's like, right away, brother. And everybody that I know that has peace of mind, one of the things that they do is they frame it right when they wake up. Today is going to be a great day. This moment is pure. I'm present. And I'm going to focus on things I can control, and boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So I do think that's a great strategy.
Awesome. So you talked about starting your gratitude practice. Mm-hmm. Right? So the first thing is that first step seems to be the hardest for people.
100%.
Right? Any just words of advice? Like,
totally.
Hey. No,
I love it.
Do it.
I love it.
I want to smack you in the back of the head. Do it.
Well, my goal with this podcast was to express clearly how much this has helped me and transformed my life and how much I've been able to help others so that it's compelling, right? I want, if 1 million people listen to this, 1 million people start their intentional gratitude practice, whether that's the nightly scribing, the morning scribe, the gratitude walks, the gratitude pitter patter, thank you when you wake up, or all of it, okay? So I hope that I've done that and you feel compelled to do this. But in regards to what you said, and this also goes back to the morning night routine, right? And this is something Coach Brian Kane, mental performance coach, who I'm a big fan of, it's the start that stops most people. It's so true, right? How great is that? It's the start that stops most people. He says it all the time. It's ingrained in my mind. And there's things where I got to get that done. I'll do it later. And then I go, oh, there it is. The start's about to stop me. Get going, right? So you build an awareness. But yeah, it's a start that stops most people. And, when you want to challenge, you want to be competitive about it, I'm calling you out, right? Do you get going? Pick something up right now. Shoot somebody a text. Let them know you're grateful for it. Put it on social media. Take a moment when the next if you're listening to this in the car, when the next red light hits, take a moment to think about the things in your surrounding that you're grateful for. If you are listening to this while you're working out and you're running, one, turn it up a little bit faster, and then express some gratitude for your damn legs and its running shoes that you got on and the music, or the headphones in your ears, anything. So I would say there's that. Start that stops most people. So one of the things you can do, be intelligent by setting up your routines, right? And this is bookending your days, your nighttime routine, your morning routine. Now, if you want to be a world-class writer, my suggestion would be to go through some writing exercises in the evening, in the morning as part of your routine. Visualize yourself being a world-class writer, and then express gratitude for developing your skills of becoming a world-class writer. And if you develop a routine, it becomes subconscious, meaning just like when you go to brush your teeth, you're not thinking about each motion necessarily. Your body's doing it for you, right? Your body understands it better than your mind almost does. And it becomes completely unconscious, and then it becomes a daily rhythm, and it becomes a state of being. Now, I'm not going to stop being intentional about it because I freaking love it too much. But there is a part of me now that is forever changed, where I communicate gratitude more. And I think that's something else, if do you have other thoughts that you've written down?
No, keep going.
Okay.
I think this is great.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a big one. And I've been communicating a lot with my players about this in regards to their identity. Well, a good part of your identity is probably going to be gratitude, right? You're a grateful person and you're present and you appreciate the things that are in your life. One of the best ways to solidify your identity, how you see yourself and how others see you, is your communication skills and how you communicate things. So another strategy that I've implemented is gratitude in my speaking, and just trying to hey, thank you so much, but really using the word gratitude. Yeah, well, I'm just really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful for you guys. I'm just grateful for the experience, and I've done it before, and I got things that piss me off, and I got a couple, and just a couple, and just a few. And I have many times been like, that, damn it. Ugh. But then I go, And out loud, I'll say it to whoever I'm with. I'm really grateful, though, that this person is challenging me in this way. Because 100% it's going to make me a better coach, because I'm learning what not to do. And I'm learning skills that you wouldn't learn otherwise. Because if this person was how I wanted him to be, I wouldn't be learning the skills. So using it in your language and making that a habit is going to be a great strategy as well. So
there's so many people that start something.
Yes.
And we're in such a world where we need immediate results.
Yes.
But I think they're starting to, if you start writing down what you're grateful for.
Yep.
And I do believe at some level,
yes,
right, that it makes it easier for you to recognize that things that are actually happening that are making your day better, but you may not see it unless you're practicing gratitude.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you're recognizing the things that you're
grateful
for, right?
Yep.
But I've heard people that have used the law of attraction, because they want to win a freaking lottery ticket.
Yep.
And, oh, it doesn't work.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can say whatever you want. I know it works, right? But you have to be mindful enough to even know when it's working.
Yes.
Right? Like, to recognize that. So when you started your gratitude practice, I'm assuming you saw some immediate results to keep you going.
Sure.
Right? So, but when did it really hit you in the head, like how it's having an impact on your daily life?
Okay. So I'm just looking back. Day one, couple of things I wrote down. The joy of living. Okay. Being joyful. I find myself now at times just coming back to joy and appreciation. Like, man, this is pretty incredible that I get to do this.
And you wrote that
You know,
2.5
I'm looking at my first day of the gratitude journal. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's setting the intention. This is partly setting an intention, and it's in there in the mind, and then it will come out at other times, and you have to just continue to practice it. Other things, let's see. Podcast. Okay, listening to so many great podcasts. I wrote that down. 100%. This is 2.5 years ago. When I listen to podcasts now, I'm listening more intently because I know there's great things there, and I have become a better speaker, a better podcast host, a better coach, a better person through my intentional practice of listening to podcasts. Is this kind of answering what you mean?
Yeah, and you're attracting
Yes.
to you
Yeah.
what you're seeking,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so, again, I just get, it can be frustrating, I think, for many people who are seeking immediacy,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to understand that it's a journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So speak to those people about, like, what maybe in the first stage, the second stage, and then the third stage of this almost of a
Well,
awakening.
okay. Listen, this is coming to me here. This is who I am now. I am a grateful person. I walk around feeling gratitude. This is a grateful person. It took me 2.5 years. It took me a lot of journaling. It took me a ton of writing in the morning, the night, even scrap pieces of paper here and there. It took a lot of conversations, a lot of visualizing, reflection. But this is part of my identity now, and people can feel that when I'm around them. And whoever you are right now is in direct correlation with how you have been behaving and the routines that you are aware of or unaware of for the past, let's just say 2.5 years. So in 2.5 years from now, and again, this is just answering the question, the long journey, right? In 2.5 years from now, what do you want to be? Do you want to be more joyful, more blissful, more grateful, more at peace with your life, more skilled and more resilient? And gratitude and resiliency are tied in together, because when you experience something that's adverse, something that you don't want, how quickly can you reframe it and be like, you know what, actually this isn't that bad. I got a lot of other things I'm grateful for, and then keep going. That's what resiliency is. So would being more resilient in your life make you a better student or a better professional, a better coach, a better parent? And I would just say, you got to have a compelling vision for yourself. And what's more compelling than the future you having inner peace, smiling from ear to ear, looking good, feeling good, joyful, clear-minded, helping others? Like that to me is very compelling, more compelling than the Hall of Fame coach vision that I have for myself. It really is. Yeah. And I would take that 10 out of 10 every single day. So does that kind of answer the long journey one?
Yeah. I think, when you really look at it, 2.5 years.
Here's a good one.
But I mean, you were transforming over that 2.5 years. So it's not like you are, but you it was intentional.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So these are the early days. This is December 2nd. Is this 3 years? I used to not write the dates. This is December 2nd. Yeah, 2.5 years. We're 6 months in. Okay, 2.5 years. The water out of the fridge. Okay, now this is funny. I know that when I wrote this, I got water out of the fridge. Pretty freaking easy. That's incredible. Obviously, there's so many people that don't have access to water, right? Which is a tragedy. But like now, I'm in my new apartment and I have the water I get out of the fridge, and like it's kind of slow, but it's cold. So it takes like about 50 seconds. I timed it, and I told this to my girlfriend when we first moved in. I go, yeah, it takes like 20 seconds more than the old fridge, but like it just gives me time to be grateful. So I mean that's live action for you. 2.5 years ago, water out of the fridge, being grateful for it, and now being able to experience that. I mean, this one, the ability to help others. Let me tell you this: I am so much more skilled at helping others in any walk of life than I was 2.5 years ago. Now, I have good self-belief that back then I knew I was doing it. I am grateful for my ability to help others, but I am so much better. Now, is that a result of hard work, dedication, and grinding? I mean, sure, partly. There's times where I work really hard, but I think it's really having a clear self-image and being at peace. And I think the gratitude practice really helps me with that. It's also made me more resilient to the hard times. When I get stressed, I want to eat. I want to eat 50 chicken wings. Like that's like, you know, my old former chubby I was a fat kid, which is great. And like, so like I know when I get stressed, I'm like, just eat them, just eat some wings, you know, it's so funny. And so now through my gratitude practice, like I'm more resilient, and I was more resilient in the past 2.5 years to not get as easily stressed, to get more focused on what I can control and move forward there. I'm sure a lot of my friends are going to get a kick out of the wing thing.
Speaking of friends, is anywhere in that gratitude journal, are you grateful for Benny?
Benny Brunetti?
Yeah.
Dude, 100%.
Where is it?
Benny is absolutely hysterical. One of my best friends since 6th grade, 100% in here when we were living together. I mean, I'm just scrolling through, but like you're absolutely right. But you know what though? One thing I'm realizing, I write down a lot of the players that I work with because I'm so passionate about that. So like basically every day I'll write down, I'm grateful for my session, grateful for my session with this person and that person, and my phone call with this person. So I guess I'm doing that, but I was just going to say, I guess I could be more intentional about, no, I guess I think I'm doing that all right. Like my phone calls are in here. I was going to say my friends though, you know, each day, you know, my parents are in here a ton, my girlfriend, my brother, all that, the humans in my life. So I treat them better. You know, when I see them, I have a deeper appreciation for them.
How much is humor a part of your life?
Oh, it was a part of my my mission statement for life. A couple years ago, I went out in the woods over at Red Rocks Park, and I brought a journal with me, and I wrote down a mission statement, and I said, my life will be full of love, laughter, and friendship. And at that point, I didn't feel like friendship was really like a massive part of my life. I have great friends. I have great relationships. Like, but you know, when you commit to a practice of mine was coaching, you know, my friendships were with like my players, which is a different type of friendship. It's not the same. And I wasn't intentional about calling people all the time or things like that. And laughter, this is kind of getting to that compelling vision and changing your energetic state. Like laughter is like probably the best medicine. I mean, it's like, what's freaking better than laughing? Even if you're in like a terrible situation, you just freaking laugh about it. It's the best, right? So why wouldn't I want my life to be a story of laughter, right? So love to me, like being the highest emotion, which now I consider bliss the highest emotion, but at that point it was love. And love for myself, for each moment, you know, emanating love for my friends, my family, my relationships, my passion, my coaching, all that, laughter. Like, yeah, if you can teach others with laughter, which and that's such a funny thing that you bring up because I find myself, that's ingrained in my coaching now. When I'm teaching these life skills or whatever, I'll laugh like, yeah, you want to do this? You want to do that? And like and we'll laugh about it.
Well,
it's interesting.
When you interviewed Lindsay.
Yes.
So you had your intro, and I was looking at it the other day.
Okay.
And then the very beginning is the two of you are cracking up, and I can't remember. I mean, I was there recording it, but I can't remember what you were laughing about.
Oh.
But that laughter was so infectious that, like, just at that moment when I was watching it, it
yeah.
just made me smile, and because I have a few friends, and no matter where I am in my head or my life or whatever, they'll make me laugh, and they'll make me just release. That laughter just releases a lot of crap, you know? And so I'm always grateful for my boy that I call up, and he doesn't even say hello. He'll go into something like busting my chops or something that just he knows is going to make me laugh.
Yeah,
you know, and boom, there it goes. Right.
I mean, that's it, man. So, yeah, I think that's something I probably could write down more though, and interact even more. Is like when I laughed at this point of the day and things like that. Yeah. So no, I agree. But going back, I just opened up some recent pages. Really intentional at night about writing down how tomorrow's going to go. And then I wake up and I write down what I'm grateful for. So you're right. I have been doing that, and it does make a difference.
All right, last thing.
Please.
You touched on self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Before we started this morning, you shared a few stories of some athletes that you're working with.
Yeah.
Without naming names.
Yeah, of course.
Whatever. Give me an example of how what goes through some people's minds that is just holding them back, and at an age where you're able, if you can turn that switch, could make such a powerful difference in that kid's growth.
Okay, so I'll share the story that was super impactful for me to hear. I've been sharing it with my other athletes because we learn through stories, right? They tend to be a superpower in communication. So I'm working with an athlete and we are reflecting on the spring. And I said, what do you wish went a little bit better this spring? And he says, I wish my head coach didn't doubt me so much on offense. And used to be more of a defensive player. Now he's playing more offense. And he goes, I just wish coach wouldn't doubt me so much when it comes to offense. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I think, coach thinks that the other guys can play better than me, and I don't play as much as some of the other guys, and I think I have more skill, and I should be on the field more. And I go, okay. I go, so do you doubt yourself when you're on the field, when you're playing offense? He goes, yeah, I do. I go, Do you doubt yourself more than you trust yourself when you're on the field? He goes, yeah, now that you say it, yeah, I do. I doubt myself more. I go, okay. So what do you think happened first? Do you think coach doubted you and then you started doubting yourself, or you doubted yourself and then coach felt that and he doubted you? And I think we all understand, and every athlete that I've shared that with understands, that the doubt was most like an internal thought process, a belief that was reciprocated by those around him, okay? Now, I'm not throwing shame on that coach because it's difficult at times and whatever, but a great coach and a great friend and a great mentor and parent does not see what that current player is seeing. They see the best possible version of that self in them, and they help bring that out, right? So coaches have talked about this, right? You believe in a player so much that they eventually believe in themselves, okay? So I do want to make that note. So there's that side of it. Now, when we had that conversation and we continued to talk, for him, it's about developing trust in himself and his skills. And this is a player experience. But then really it's, how do you see yourself and how do you communicate about yourself to others? And it's a two-part approach. You need to get clear on what you actually believe is possible for you. And, examples for me, at one point, I did not believe this was possible for me. But this is years and years ago. I thought I would just be a coach on the field. But then as I started opening up and realizing actually there's no limitation on what I can do. And that's a fact. That's not an ability thing. That's just an awareness piece. There's no limitations for really any of us. So once I started wiping away these preconceived perspectives, frameworks, limiting beliefs, I started tapping into a much better coach that was me and things that I could do. So one, it's about getting clear on what do you currently believe is possible for yourself. And then inspecting those statements. Well, can I be greater than that? Is it possible for me to make that team? Is it possible for me to get over my stage fright? Is it possible for me to have a massive podcast or whatever it is for each person, okay? Or to make this more money, blah, blah, blah. So you get clear on that. And then when you talk with others, be very mindful of how you speak about yourself to others. So work with players. I go, hey, and this is a test. I go, hey, talk to me. What's your game like? Talk to me about yourself as a player. And 10 out of 10, what they describe to me is exactly how they play. And the players who are dominating, they very clearly communicate. Coach, I can do it all. I'm a two-way midi. I can shoot from the outside, I can shoot from the inside, and I work really hard and I trust my abilities. Like those are what the players who are dominating and the people who are dominating their life talk like. And then the opposite side is, I don't know, and there's a confusion. So there's just been, the strategy is you need to spend more time getting clear on who you want to be and what's possible for you. And then you get really good at communicating it with others, right? So using gratitude in your language, right, daily, things like that. And an example, how does it look for me in my own life? I mean, when we first started doing this, like the first time I sat down to speak in front of the camera was like, I wouldn't say it was a shit show, but it wasn't a shit show. But how many times did I mess up? I messed up, right? A bunch of times. And I would go, I I can definitely do this, but it's going to take me some practice, right? So I was about to say I can't, but then I was able right now. So I can try, right? So I figured those things out. So it's managing the way that you speak about yourself and the way that you speak to others about yourself and what you're capable. And then internally, it is having a mindfulness practice, being the observer of self-limiting beliefs, and then being intentional about integrating, empowering beliefs about yourself. So, I mean, long-winded answer there, but if I had to sum it up for anyone, and I hope that every single person does this, is, what are the beliefs that are holding you back? And what is the future you, the best possible version look like? And I would say start with joy and gratitude and a smile and work from there. And next time you talk to somebody about how work's going and you say, I'm getting overlooked at my job, or my boss is this, or my coach is that, you know what? What's the most empowering way I could speak about this? Okay, you know what? Well, at work right now, I'm really grateful for this challenge of having to deal with a boss who isn't really empathetic to his workers and is unclear about his communication patterns. So the whole team is a bit confused at times. But through this process, I'm learning how to be a better communicator and a better leader. And I know that when I'm in a position, I'm going to be really grateful for this experience so that I can then serve others better and be the best version of myself. Okay, so I would say that's for someone in a working professional. And then as a player, instead of saying, coach is really, he's really getting on me and it's causing me to be stressed and it's causing me to tighten up when I'm on the field. And I can't play for someone like that, okay? I would say a player who's done this work a little bit would say, currently I'm working through playing in a stressful environment. And even though I've communicated with coach that I don't like being screamed at in my face mask, I understand that it's out of my control. So I'm going to focus on what I can control, which is my focus, my attention, my energy, my effort, my presence. And I believe that when I overcome this challenge, I'm going to be a better player than I was before. So yeah, coach, I'm actually grateful for my coach yelling at me, and I'm not going to be stressed about it. I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to be blessed by this situation. That's what it looks like.
So you're working with late teens, young adults. Do you see a 16-year-old being able to rationalize in their heads? I mean, I just love the fact that you're just bringing it up, just by recognizing it, right? And helping them to recognize it. Because that particular guy who's struggling maybe with his confidence, he might not be getting that help from mom and dad. The mom and dad might be saying, the coach isn't playing you enough. The coach isn't playing. And that puts additional pressure on him and the relationship he has with his coach.
And now he has the ability to transform his parents' perspective by going, well, actually, he's not playing me right now, but I'm just going to focus on what I can control and be grateful for the opportunity to prove somebody wrong. I'm going to use it as motivation, so I don't want to talk about it as a stressful thing anymore. I want to talk about it as a teaching moment and something that's going to make me even better. Because if it forces me to improve my left hand, lacrosse stuff, if it forces me to improve my left hand to a point where I'm now capable to be the left-hand attackman, I've just elevated my game, and I'm going to have a better time on the field. That's I just go to coaching lacrosse.
But that's such a great construct on how to turn that potential negative, all of that self-talk.
Yes.
Self-talk, good self-talk will blow apart self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
It just incinerates them.
Well, yes, I think it incinerates them over time, and depending how deep the work is. And you have to just consistency, right? And really getting in touch with it. I had a self-limiting belief of, and then it caused me to procrastinate, which caused more stress in my life. And it was, I'll do it later. So I realized when I really meditated on it, I was like, you've been telling yourself, I'll do it later since you were in school, since like elementary school. And, you know, why did that happen? I could look at some reasons and why I developed that belief, okay? But at the end of the day, that's something that I believed. So then becoming more aware of like, no, it's the start that stops most people. Do it now. And now is the best time to do what you need to do. Because every time I say I can do it later, I self-talk myself and go, wait a minute, that didn't serve you too well in academics. And it caused more stress than good. Let's not let that leak over into your life right now, into my professional, my academy, and things like that. But, you know, the other piece, teenagers predominantly, work with a lot of college guys, a lot of phone calls with them, Zoom calls, helping them with this stuff. But I've really been working a lot with the 7th, 8th grade group. That's kind of something I'm definitely focused on right now. Very impressionable time in their life, and but they have more clarity than you'd realize. And if you have these conversations with them, it clicks. So this works. Okay, and the one thing I'll just say is that, like, here's an example. Have a player struggling with his own self-image and identity and his performance on the field. And he goes, I can't do this. I'm not good at this. I'm that. I'm this. I go, hang on a second. Well, I see you as all this and that. Could you see that for yourself? Yeah, I guess. Okay. All right. Well, he had it really ingrained, right? He was struggling to become mindful of when those negative thoughts were there and letting them go down the river and put in good, positive, intentional thoughts. So it took a couple months. But now we're at the point, we just finished up our first round of mentorship, our 3-month program. And the other day we were just talking about how'd the game go. And he was speaking with clarity. Oh, it went great. I felt super present and like things aren't bothering me as much. And, you know, something came up where he used to be afraid of going against a big defender, which I hear a lot from younger players because they're comparing themselves. That's the age when you really start comparing yourself. And he goes, I recognize the big guy, and usually I would get scared and then be like, well, I'm not going to have a good game. And I realized it was out of my control and that I can still control so much of my ability and I'll be able to still have a great performance. And yeah. And I was like, yes, my man, that is how you speak. How do you feel? He goes, I feel so much better. So now in that process, there was many times where he still spoke with a self-limiting perspective. And then I would go, and instead of me telling him how it should sound, it turns into, cool. So you just told me, you just limited yourself. Let's do this again. Tell me what you just told me, but make it better. Give me the growth. Give me the full belief in your ability and yourself. And then they take a second, they take a breath. Okay. Next time I go against the big defender and I'm intimidated. Next time I have the big presentation in work and I am nervous about this, I'm going to remember that I have the ability to communicate clearly and help others, or I have the ability to play as hard as I can and make big plays, and I trust myself to do it, and that the best version of myself is going to come out in that moment. And that's it. That's the self-talk, right? So it takes practice as well. I hope this makes sense over audio, me tapping into like the kind of storytelling mode versus, okay.
And I think it will. I have noticed a trend.
Yep.
I'm an old guy. Okay, I have noticed a huge trend in watching interviews of players, whether it's post-game, pre-game. The self-talk has improved so much.
Yep.
Like, you know, I used to say 2 things you can count on watching a great player in an interview afterwards, right? Is any mistake was a learning lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You notice this over time. And I always say the greatest players always had amnesia. Like they were able to forget and quickly distance themselves from missing that last shot, or you know, so that they have the ability that the next time they're in that position, that they can perform without that memory, that bad memory on rewind in their head.
Yeah.
And so you hear it even if they've had a bad game or they had a great game. It's gratitude. Mm-hmm. They're grateful to be in the opportunity. They're grateful that, you know, things kind of went their way, or they were grateful that it didn't go their way, but they're going to take something away from that and learn from it.
Totally.
And I've seen that transition happen over the last 2 decades, and it's really quite remarkable.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite part of the post game, especially championships, is hearing people speak, winners and the losers, and just getting their perspective in that moment. I'm a big fan of that, so I completely agree with you there. And you will hear people talking about things that they can control, talking about, I felt really good mentally. I was in the moment. You'll hear these things, and it's just about tapping into it for yourself. Yeah. And I know, and I'm grateful for. We got to wrap it up, right? I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to rip this one, okay? I am so grateful that this podcast was able to reach you, and that some part of it, if not every single bit of it, hit a part of your spirit that now you feel compelled to start your intentional gratitude practice. And the good news is you've already started it without realizing it, because you've probably thought about something that you're grateful for, a time that you could have been grateful. So your practice has started, and I'm so grateful to be on the journey with you. There's moments in this morning where I was not super excited about getting over here. I was actually late. They thought I was 9 a.m. I thought I was 10 a.m. So I messed that up. I was in a bit of a hurry, and I didn't know exactly how this was going to go. I thought it was going to be 15 minutes. I don't even know how long we've gone. Hour 5. Love that, okay? So I'm so grateful for this experience. I can't think of a time when sharing our gratitude for each other and our experiences would go wrong. So trust me, I'm full of gratitude right now. I got a smile from ear to ear. I think I'm becoming my future self as we speak. And I would love to talk with any of you about this, even if it's a comment on the Instagram post, a text to me if you have my number, an email, reach out to the guys at T-Pow Studios. We can just keep it rolling. Thank you so much. Thank you, my man Troy, for the great questions, and your presence has absolutely helped me, not only here, but in the podcast as a whole. And I'm really grateful for our future relationship, because I think even better things are on the horizon than we can imagine. So,
well, I'm grateful for you, because when my alarm goes off on Thursday night that I have Mabry at 9 or 10 a.m., I get it. I'm pumped. It automatically puts a smile on my face. I always look forward to my Friday mornings with you.
Dude, we're going to keep it Fridays, because if it was Monday, who knows? No, I'm just kidding. Super grateful for Mondays. We'll talk about that next time. Appreciate you guys. Freaking likes, share. Come on, baby. Let's go. Right? If this helped, share with somebody. Let's go. Yeah. I'll see you guys later.
And subscribe.
Subscribe.